Let's talk about the most recent injury report for the Chiefs that sadly now includes the greatest tight end in the game and discuss the odds of Travis Kelce playing and how the Chiefs could look without him out there on the field. But first, how about those? All right, first up, it looks like everybody did practice today, at least for the start, which we'll talk more about later, with Pete Sweeney of Arrowhead Pride in attendance for the media look, saying every player listed on the Chiefs injury report, that's wide receivers Richie James and Kadarius Toney, offensive lineman Nick Allegretti, defensive lineman BJ Thompson and Turk Wharton, and defensive backs Nick Jones and L'Jarius Sneed were spotted at practice today, but still no sign of defensive tackle Chris Jones. More on injuries in a moment, trust me, but for now, let's stick with the Chris Jones spot here real quick because Andy Reid mentioned there was no progress or update on Chris Jones during his holdout from when he talked to the media on Sunday, I believe it was, which basically confirms to me Chris Jones is not playing in Thursday's game. And no, it's not funny, but that is my nervous reaction to laugh. I mean, I'm not even sure that's really a surprise to anybody, as we all have seen the writing on the wall during this holdout, with both sides still reportedly far apart on this deal. Plus, Andy Reid said his mind hasn't even gone there about Chris Jones being there week 1 or not, because he's purely focused on this upcoming game with who is in the building, not who is out of there, smoking cigars at a pool, all that good stuff. And then another player who has been around but only recently cleared for contact with very little preseason action is running back Isaiah Pacheco. And when Big Red was asked about Pacheco and if he will be a full go given those factors, Andy said, quote, "If he's up, he's playing, he'll be ready." He noted Kadarius Toney had a good week of practice as well, and some others who have been practicing well as a unit is the offensive line, because starting center Creed Humphrey spoke to the media today and said that both of the new tackles have improved a ton. They've built great chemistry over camp and preseason, and they fit really well with the group overall. His confidence level also seemed high about them ready to protect Mahomes come Thursday evening's game against the Lions, a game they are coming into not focused on any of the distractions, the banner being hung, none of that. They just want to get the W. And I will say, while I have the Chiefs winning against the Lions, the odds are starting to stack up against them, with Chris Jones still holding out, Omenihu suspended, but also because of some new injury news that happened at today's practice. So let's go there after a look at the most updated injury report that looks as follows. Wide receiver Richie James was limited yesterday with a knee injury, but a full participant today, which is great news. L'Jarius Sneed and Kadarius Toney were both limited Monday and Tuesday, as Toney is still healing up from that knee cleanup roughly 6 weeks ago, and Sneed is still being careful on that knee that has flared up on him a few times this offseason. So while they stayed limited, defensive tackle Turk Wharton upgraded from a limited participant Monday to a full participant today, which is great news for an already thin D-line room. And then cornerback Nick Jones was a full participant Monday and Tuesday, even though he fractured a couple of fingers in the first preseason game. The other two listed as full participants both Monday and Tuesday were offensive lineman Nick Allegretti, who hurt his shoulder a couple weeks ago at practice, and then defensive end BJ Thompson, hamstring. He also fully participated both days. So while most of that injury report isn't too wild and has some positive news, that positive news may be short-lived, because a very important person, VIP, did indeed get injured in some capacity at practice today, which you can see at the bottom of the injury report. And no, your eyes do not deceive you. It's tight end 1, Travis Kelce. Andy Reid stepped right up to the podium today during his presser and let everybody know that Kelce hyperextended his knee at practice today, saying it happened right in front of him. Sky Moore was interviewed after practice and said, quote, "I was in on that play, so I was running a route. I was talking to somebody, and Kelce, was limping just walking off the field. It was a good sign to see him get up by himself and get off the field." So yeah, definitely a positive sign, I guess, that he was able to walk off the field on his own power. Anyway, Andy then said this: "We'll just see how Kelce does going forward." Kelce was getting an MRI literally during Andy Reid's presser, so he had no details as to the severity of the issue, but he did say if Kelce can't go, quote, "The next guy steps in and we roll." That's what we do if that's the case. And I would imagine that if that is indeed the case, they more than likely call up Matt Bushman from the practice squad, who has been complimented more than once on his route running capabilities and will probably suit up and at least see some time against the Lions with the other two tight ends on the roster as well. Of course, those being Noah Gray and Blake Bell. And that means Noah Gray will for sure have to step up with some big shoes to fill, but the wide receiver room as a whole will need to do the same, because it's going to take more than just one player to fill the void left behind by Kelce if he indeed doesn't play. And while his status is still up in the air. Just prior to recording this video, I'm recording around 5:15 on Tuesday, September 5th. Ian Rappaport did share an update on Kelce, saying that his status is indeed in doubt for Thursday night's opener against the Lions because of his knee injury, but sources say it's not believed to be a long-term injury. They will wait for swelling to go down and go from there. And while that is certainly some form of positive news, the Chiefs have a tough decision to make about this upcoming game with Kelce, considering after this game is basically a mini bye, 10 days between games, which would provide some valuable recovery time for Kelce and his knee. So the question is, will the Chiefs err on the side of caution and rest him knowing that a mini bye is coming? I mean, yeah, missing week 1 is rough. Not going to be an easy fight against the Lions, but missing more of the season is worse, especially if he aggravates that knee further in this game. But thankfully, I am no doctor, and Rick Burkholder and staff will either get it right or make their best educated decision on game day for Kelce and his health. And again, while I'm no doctor, Dr. Jesse Morse of the Fantasy Doctors did weigh in about Kelce's hyperextended knee, and here's what he had to say.
So if we look here at the knee, when we see it from the side, this is the inside, when we hyperextend a knee, what you're going to have at the minimum is a bone bruise down here, somewhere down here, usually the tibia, but it can also be proximal femur. So what are we likely dealing with here? A combination of a bone bruise, which is swelling within the bone, which just takes time to go away. He might have a small little meniscal tear, but not enough to be concerning. And he's probably got some spraining or stretching of some of the ligaments inside of the knee, probably the ACL, probably the PCL, but a little bit of a stretch. But nonetheless, there is a good chance he comes back relatively soon. I do not think week 1 is realistic. It's just too risky for his knee. Additionally, we're looking at probably 2 to 3 weeks, I think is a realistic scenario.
And he goes on to say bruising can be very painful and take weeks, sometimes months to go away. Though players can certainly return prior to that, it's just a pain management issue at that point. Another thing he noted was to pay attention to what knee this happened to, because Kelce did miss basically his entire rookie year to a left knee injury that required surgery back in 2013. And if this is his left knee, that could spell a bit longer of a recovery time depending on various factors. And as of right now, I still don't even know which knee it is. Anyway, he doesn't really expect Kelce to play in Thursday's game, which will end a pretty wild streak for Kelce, because since 2014, Kelce hasn't missed a single game due to injury. He was a healthy scratch twice and missed a game once due to COVID in 2021, but that is it. And if that is indeed the case, the Chiefs are rolling into week 1 with no Chris Jones, Charles Omenihu suspended, no Travis Kelce, as well as Snead and Toney possibly on a limited snap count, meaning the odds are certainly stacked against the Chiefs a bit here. However, if anyone can figure out a way to get the job done and get the W, it's going to be Patrick Mahomes and Andy freaking Reid. They will draw the best out of the players available and will scheme plays catered to their strengths, though I will admit they don't have a ton of time to prepare given Kelce's injury just happened today, and the game is on Thursday. Now, in case you were wondering, how has Mahomes performed without Kelce in a game? Has that ever happened? Well, it's a very small sample size, but the last game Mahomes played in with no Travis Kelce was in December of 2021 when Travis was placed on the COVID list. And in that game, Mahomes went 23 for 30, 258 yards, 3 touchdowns, and 0 interceptions. Now, Tyreek was indeed playing in that game, but he just came off the COVID list himself, I believe, if I remember right. And because of that, he did not play a ton of snaps, catching only 2 passes for 19 yards. And while Mahomes did have a good game, it was against a Steelers team with a struggling Big Ben that finished the year 9-7, and Roethlisberger ended up retiring after the season's end. Ironically, after they played the Chiefs again at Arrowhead in the playoffs, and the Chiefs beat the brakes off them. So happy retirement, Big Ben. Wish you the best of luck. But hey, Kelce didn't play, and Hill barely did, which is my point. Yet Mahomes still went off in that game, and the Chiefs won it 36-10. So it's not all doom and gloom, because as long as Mahomes is out there, the Chiefs always have a chance of winning. I will say, though, the Lions are a much tougher opponent than the 2021 Steelers. I want to make that absolutely crystal clear, and therefore the ending score may not be nearly as one-sided as the Chiefs winning 36-10 against the Steelers, but I am rolling with the Chiefs getting the W regardless. And here's a couple reasons why. Andy Reid is 9-1 in week 1 games as the Chiefs head coach, and Patrick Mahomes is 5-0, throwing for 18 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, 1,542 yards. He had a 133.9 passer rating and also averaged 37.8 points per game. And no, that is not a typo. And that's why I'm going to roll with the Chiefs winning a one-score game. Going to make it close here, 31-28. The defense may struggle a bit with no Chris Jones or Charles Omenihu. Then obviously Snead could be on a snap count. And the offense could take a little while to get into a rhythm with no Travis Kelce out there if he indeed doesn't play. But I still think between Mahomes and Andy Reid, they can and more than likely will get the job done. And with all that being said, are you worried at all about the Chiefs' ability to put up points without Travis Kelce or nah? And also, what's your final score predictions for this game against the Lions? Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. And until next time, let's go. Let's freaking go. How about those?